And if you actually go to runtime on here, you're going to see blower number 1 has ran a non-resettable runtime of 94 hours. The non-resettable runtime is 217 hours. This is actually giving you a count. The start count is 1,534 versus a start count of 14. So this is all your data on everything that's running. This is just the blowers. And if you go back to this one right here, it's actually sitting there, and if you actually go into your set points, you'll actually set it right here. If you said, you know what, in standard normal running time, I want this thing to hit 6 days between one to the other, type in 6, enter, now it's 6 days. But you can do that even down to just saying, you know what, I just want it 1 day, every day, or every 11 days. Any day you want it to. We chose 4 as a good number. There's no rhyme or reason on the 4. But if you go in here, the second you get to your main screen, if you ever see this light blinking like this, that's when you know you have a problem. If this light's blinking, on your other screen it should be blinking too. And so if you go into your alarms, this is going to tell you right now. Right now, because we have bypassed the gas pressure sensor, you are getting a gas differential pressure low. And that gas differential pressure low is an alarm that says, hey listen, my gas pressure and my air pressure don't match. The gas volume says it's low. And the gas volume says it's down below. Hold on a second. Let's acknowledge these alarms. Okay. When you actually, what I just did was I acknowledged the alarms, and then I reset the alarms because it said gas volume low. Well, it's at 44%. That's not gas volume low. But this morning when it came in, it was down to 20% and it alarmed. And so it's telling you, hey, listen, I alarmed sometime and nobody actually did anything about it. And so I just did it, reset it, and we actually had that thing come back. But the low gas pressure alarm is because we have shut it off up there at the actual meter itself. So because this one here is not matching close enough to this one right here, it set 2 alarms right off the bat. One was low pressure and one was the differential pressure. And all of these alarms will have to be reset after they go off. So no matter what, if something were to happen and something were to trip and it'd send an alarm, you would have to come back out here, go into your acknowledge the alarm, each one per, and then hit reset. These alarms are not going to go away until we actually get that thing set. These are how it's running, and you can see it actually fluctuating between 13.2 and it was what, 12.9 before. That's just going to happen. That's standard. And if you ever wanted to, you can go into your set points, because your set points will go off and it'll start alarming you. The methane alarm goes off at 35%. If for some reason you say, hey, listen, I want to know well before 35%, it's just an alarm. You can go in and take it to whatever you want it to. I want to know at 10%. And that's 10% of LEL, so that's 0.44% of methane. The air pressure alarm, like I say, it's running at 13.2, which is well within the parameter. But if you actually thought, hey, listen, it's not operating the way I want it to, you can always go in here and change that. Change it to whatever you want. Set it 14 if you want 15 or 16. You could actually do that. It's the same with the differential pressure alarms. Some of these things are hard-coded in, some aren't. The differential alarm setting, it's going to give you an alarm at whatever you want it to. If you want it to be at 0.8, you can set it at 0.8 low and 0.8 high. Or if you wanted to, you can actually put it way out of the range so it's not going to alarm you that big a deal. There is a hard code in it that's actually going to set it off in purge mode if it gets too carried away. But this right here, you're going to want to set a differential pressure alarm somewhere in there. And your gas pressure alarm should always mirror your air pressure, because as it's pushing down, it's pushing up. The gas below that is the volume that it's pushing up against. It's not pushing on anything but the gas. So you're not in any kind of thing. But if you actually said, hey, listen, I want this thing to go, right now it's between 12 and 14. That's 1 down and 1 up. That's a delta of 2 inches of water column. We're definitely well within to do that. But if you wanted to and go 1.5 each way, you could certainly do that. None of that is ever going to matter. And your gas volume alarm. Like I say, at 20%, you're going to go into purge mode. This thing's going to alarm at you at 30%. But let's just say you wanted it to go further than that, 35. Just type it in, hit enter, and it'll go to 35. And if you thought 10% wasn't enough, and you were going to go home for the night, and you didn't want to worry about an alarm, you could set this at 85 earlier in the day, and if it ever hit 85, take her down to at least 85, and then you know you have enough room to operate till the morning time. You can manually turn on a flare, or you can hit the boilers hard, or you can do whatever you got to do to get some of that stuff out of there. But all of this stuff is, all the set points on here are done to 85, 90. These were just standards that we put in, and I think the 35 on the gas volume was done by you guys. So anyway, all the way down to the number of blower cycles here, all of that stuff is fine. You'll be able to tell when it goes into purge mode because it will be down, and it'll actually tell you purge mode right underneath here. And so if you actually drop that thing down into purge mode, this thing hit 20%, you would see the fan go off, and you would see this turn green or blue, and then you would see the green arrow come over through here, or these pipes would be green, and that would be say, hey, listen, I'm venting, and I'm in purge mode. And then this air pressure is going to drop down to 1 inch of water column. One fan's going to come on, and then this thing will actually pump up to 1.5 inches, and then the fan will shut off. And the fan will just keep turning on and shutting off, alternating fans, until something has happened with the gas volume to bring it above 25%. Other than that, the general alarm will go off when everything gets set up with the gas pressure sensor.
This is 25% is here when it gets past the alarm point, does it in and out, in and out.
Yeah, it's not going to go from 20 to 21 to 20. No. It's got to go up to 25 now.
And hopefully you have some volume.
Yeah, so you're not actually just triggering purge mode on and off. It's actually going to go up to 25, shut off. And then if it's using air or gas or something like that, then hopefully you've set the alarms. You've actually addressed the situation and are trying to get more gas into it.
I got a question.
Yeah.
We're running on blower 1. 4
Yep.
days from now, it's going to switch to 2.
Yes.
If it doesn't come on, does it automatically switch back to 1?
If we had this thing open, if anything were to ever happen to any item on there, if somebody were to turn the fan off that was running from down there in the control room, automatically cycles to the next fan. It automatically turns on the next fan and then alarms and says, I have a blower fault. At which point, you would fix the situation, turn the blower on, you'd acknowledge the alarm and hit the reset button on it, and everything would come back to normal.
Now, I know you said on the LEL between the two, it should never go high because it's purging out constant fresh air.
Yes.
But let's say bad sensor or something, and it does, and it's showing you have an LEL. What's the programming going to do itself?
It's just going to give you an alarm. I got a high methane alarm, and it can be anywhere from
Let's say bad sensor,
0 to
whatever.
exactly, and it's not going to actually do anything. It's just going to say, hey, listen, I have a high methane detection. We need to figure out what we're going to do about it.
From that point on. Let's say we got that.
If you had that, well, of course, the first thing to do would be actually pull off the sensor, run a sniffer into it, and make sure that it is running on, that it is exactly over the explosive limit, and that it is reading what the methane sensor is. If that's the case, then we've got bigger issues, because now it's getting methane into the air chamber. That's a whole different scenario of
But
you guys start calling us.
Emergency for us, just get on the phone with you guys?
Emergency for you is to get rid of every ounce of gas out of there. Turn on your boilers, turn on your flares, and drain the whole thing out of gas as best you can. Safest way. And then at that point there, we'll leave it in purge mode set up to where it's operating at the least amount of pressure possible. We'll leave that up. You'll leave the fans on because you want to actually try to cycle out as much of that methane out of the membrane as possible. And from that point on, give us a call. We'll work out a possible scenario depending on what the situation is at that particular second. It's hard to actually say, well, what would you do? Well, it depends on what the situation is completely. But
I'm just going from
the
our
first
point
thing you
of
would
view,
do,
what's our plan?
yes, the first thing you would do is drain every ounce of gas you can out of it and put it into purge mode.
Yeah, I just out of
And
curiosity.
by draining all the gas out of it, it'll automatically set itself into a purge mode, right?
Yes.
It'll just maintain
The
itself.
second you start taking all that gas out of it, it gets below the 20%, it starts lowering the pressure.
Right.
Okay, well that's about it for the panel. Do you have any questions, Dave? Do you understand everything completely? That's just yeah, this is just normal operation here. They have a test mode. that they were using to test with the SCADA system.
Okay.
And then they have a bypass mode just to override it, but none of this stuff really should ever have to deal with you
What I understand is
unless CDM Smith or Aaron's and Associates are doing something with it.
There's normal operating procedures, as long as we clear this will be off.
Exactly. This thing would be off if we could get these alarms to go away.
That's why they blink when you hit reset.
Yes, because it needs to be reset. But we can't reset it until we open it up.
Did you show the interior of the panel?
What's that?
Did you show the interior of the panel?
I don't have the screwdriver to actually get into it, but I can actually shut the whole system off to do it. This is the inside of the control panel. This right here is your power supply. This power supply here is actually, this is what's going to run the machine if there was a power outage. Should give you within hours of some sort of time. These are your blower regulators. Should one ever pop off, the other one will come right back on. These are your main fuse panels. These would be your sensors. This is your PLC. This is your computer. Your HMI is back up over here. These are your switches. This right here is your level sensor. This is taking the 0 to 5 volts that's coming from your load cell and converting it into a 4 to 20 signal output. And then this 4 to 20 goes into the PLC, and that 4 would be your full, 8 or 20 would be your empty, and then it scales up between that.
Now, do we have a wiring diagram in here for this?
Yes, we do. Well, I don't know about in here. There should be. If there isn't, there will be.
That number's the volume though.
Not necessarily. That's the number that's scaled from 4 to 20. That actually gives you a linear scale. Now keep in mind, the actual function of it, because it's round, as it goes up, the bottom part is going to fill up slower than the top part. So the PLC actually recognizes that and does calculations to actually make the curve fit on it volume-wise. But in the lower levels, yes, that's going to read somewhat true, but in the upper levels it's not. So, and this is all pretty standard, I guess, if you're an Arky Sparky guy. Okay, and there's always an outlet in here if you ever needed to run something. But other than that, that's pretty standard. Okay, so it's at 11.9. It went down past the 1. Automatically kicks on both blowers. The second it does that, it'll kick it on till probably it hits 12, and then it'll actually go into standard operation mode, which would just be one fan. Just like if this thing were to ever hit, it's set at 13 inches of water column. If it were to ever hit 14, both fans would go off, and then it would until it comes back down into range, and it'll actually do that.
Well, if
And-
you're making gases, you're probably never going to see two blowers come on.
No, you might. The only time you'll see probably both blowers come on is
Using gas.
if you're sucking
Faster than.
if you're sucking out the gas and you're taking fluid out of the tank and all of that stuff goes, it would affect the pressure on it. And if it hit 2 inches of water column, then it would set it off. But for the most part, you wouldn't have to worry about it. And this right here, I'll bet there is a low air pressure alarm. There we go, UPC on battery, okay, because we opened it up, we shut it off. Air pressure low, so now both fans are on. Gas pressure differential and gas pressure low, those are all set. Acknowledge the alarms. Reset. UPC battery is still on. There we go. We were running off the UPC battery. There we go. UPC battery off, but the air pressure is still low. Go back to your main. We're at 12 now. We'll resume standard operation with just one fan. Well, that's pretty much it for the control panel. Is there anything else you feel you want to see or anything? Okay, let's head on up and we'll go take a look at the... What's that?
Why did you just get a low air pressure?
When I turned it off, there was still air exhausting out of the outside of there, but no fans were turning on because I turned it off. So the air pressure came down
Gotcha.
below 1 inch of water column. That sent the alarm. And then when I turned it back on, both blowers came back on to compensate for it.
It's because you killed the power.
That's because I killed the power to it.
Why are you all doing that? Okay, that makes sense.
Okay. But you did also notice that it went straight to UPS mode, or UPC mode, which is the battery pack on it. So the battery pack does work, and the second I turned it back on, it was standard back into there, and all of the set points are still the same. So even if you lose power, all your set points are going to be there. What was that?
Did you actually lose pressure that way? What was that?
You're going to lose, at the higher, you're going to lose it pretty quick. What's that?
It's exhausting, but
No, because those outside TRVs should shut. They're pretty much always open when you shut.
yeah, that's true. Correct.
That initial start. But
Yes.
if you kept this off for an hour, it's probably ain't gonna drop much beyond that. Because
No, it's
not
going to
exhaust
probably, over the course of an hour, you could probably get it down to 5 inches of water column, maybe. But as it starts letting out more pressure, it
less
actually,
weight to pull on it.
yes,
Yeah, but that's shutting off the blowers for that, what, a couple seconds? Was enough?
yeah, was enough to actually lose enough pressure to trigger the alarm.
All it was off, only UPS running the computer, not running the blower.
Yeah,
Think it was off?
Gotta open the gap in and everything.
yeah. When I opened it up and
That
opened the
killed all the
door,
power,
it
all
killed
the
all the power to it.
Yeah.
Yes. Second I closed the door, the UPC took over, ran the actual thing until I actually clicked it back on. But that only takes care of this. That doesn't take care of the fans. There's no battery backup for the fans. It's just going to monitor. If we had a power outage right now, it's not going to operate the fans. The purge mode actually can trigger straight to open if you actually had to manually push it. But other than that, this thing is just monitoring.
Any way to track old alarms, so I can find out what you had to say this morning?
Yeah, it'll all be right here, unless you actually cleared them out.
Cleared though.
After they're cleared, they're
Where
gone.
is it on screen?